Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to episode 98 of the Daily List Report. We are almost to 100 episodes of this labor of love. While you're here, make sure you consider subscribing to the channel. Click the little bell to be notified so you don't miss a single episode. As always, we like to think we have a great show for you today. We've got Ian Grossman. Ian is a top agent based in the Austin, Texas area. He's with Keller Williams. He's a former school teacher who moved into real estate about 5 years ago. He's active on Instagram, got lots of followers. I've got him up right here. It's realestate_ATX. We'll provide a link to that in the description below. And he's also very active on YouTube, and he's got a bunch of cool YouTube videos here that you're definitely going to want to check out. So make sure you subscribe to his channel as well. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to talk about what the first 5 years in real estate has been like for him. How he got involved in doing YouTube videos and Instagram, and sort of how he's building his business and generating leads, and sort of what's happening in the world today from his perspective. I know most of you like these sort of agent conversations so you can see what other people are doing and you can learn from some of the best of the best. So without further ado, Ian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. Ian, thanks for taking the time to do this. It's one of the great things about this industry is that, people are so willing to share what they're doing and their best practices and their ideas, and in this case, your journey. And so I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, I love being able to kind of share mostly the mistakes that I've made over the first several years, because those are the easiest for agents to learn from. So
it's absolutely the case.
Yeah, don't make those same mistakes. We'll get into all that.
Yes, we will. Ian, why don't we start here, right? So I love it when guests take some time to introduce themselves. And, you've been in the business, I'll say only 5 years, right? Because we've got people listening who've been in the business a long time, and 5 years is still relatively early. So can you share a little bit of your journey from, being a school teacher, right, and sort of what moved you into real estate? I told you this in our prep for the show, but according to NAR, only 5% of their members said that real estate was their first career. So it's really common for people to either stumble into real estate or be inspired to change, or frankly, a lot of agents that I know, they needed flexibility because they had people in their family who needed to be cared for. There's all sorts of reasons why people go into real estate, and I'm curious to hear what your journey was.
Yeah, so I graduated college with an elementary education degree and went straight into teaching. I was a fourth grade teacher in Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice.
Then moved up to fifth grade for my final year. So I taught for 5 years in Atlanta, and then made the decision to move out to Austin, Texas. She wasn't my wife at the time, but she was graduating nursing school in Tucson, and we were trying to think, where can we meet in the middle? So we wound up settling on Austin, Texas. So when I moved here, I continued teaching. I taught for 2 years, but it was after that summer of the first year of teaching. I just started. Teachers, as most people know, do not make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when I first started, I was not in it for the money, but I got to a point where I started realizing, if I want to be able to support a family, I'm living in this cool city, I'm not able to enjoy all the great things that Austin has to offer, the reasons that we moved here, I need to figure something else out. So it was actually that summer of 2014 where I looked up how to get your real estate license. And I think it's one of those professions where it's crazy. The barrier of entry is pretty low from a cost and education standpoint. And it's my understanding Texas, compared to a lot of other states, you do need a lot more education. That's just kind of how Texas is. But I went through the courses. It took me about a month. And I went to the in-person ones. I know now there's a lot of online versions, but I wanted to go in person, hear the questions people were asking. And I got my license that summer, but I had already planned to teach the following year. So I taught the entire 2014, 2015 school year. And then once 2015 hit, the end of the school year, I think it ended on a Wednesday. Teacher's last day was Friday. And then I started going to the office every single day that next Monday. So I kind of jumped in full force and was full-time June 2015.
Wow. That's amazing. It almost coincides a little bit with when we started this company. So we've been talking about this, right? But you're kind of an OG
Yeah,
ListReports user too, which is pretty cool. So I love that our journeys have sort of a similar timeline.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead,
Anyone who's
please.
watching, no, anyone who's watching this that isn't a frequent list reports user, it's changed tremendously over the last few years. So definitely go check it out and take advantage of some of those features they
I
have.
appreciate that, Ian. I appreciate that. That's awesome. So you took the
Yeah.
plunge, and how did you know what to do? Did you go find mentors? Did you how did you actually learn the business? How did you really get started?
So there's a few things. One, going again, I started going to my office. Keller Williams is known for their training program.
That's true.
So that's what I wanted. I wanted a lot of training. So I was at the office around other agents, around other new agents all the time. And we were doing everything that the people around us were telling us to do, whether it was script practicing, we were going, there were three of us that we kind of made a little group, and we would go each week. One of us would choose like 5 properties that we would go look at that were vacant. And we would start going and letting ourselves into properties that were on the market to start learning what it's like. You never want to show up to a house with a client and that's their first time ever opening a lockbox, because
That's a
it's
good
highly
point.
likely that you will screw that up. And,
Is that speaking
so,
from experience, Ian?
well, actually, luckily, no, not in that case. But it was a great way to go. You're opening lock boxes and you're walking around with other agents, and they could be other buyers, that you're with, as far as pointing things out the house that you wouldn't have noticed. So getting some other perspectives, those are kind of, it kind of primes you for questions that your clients are going to ask when you start looking at houses. So that, in addition to our office, so you mentioned I'm at the Keller Williams office. I'm in Austin. I'm in Market Center number 1. This is the largest volume producing Keller Williams office in the entire world.
Yeah.
So there
That's
are a
home
lot
base,
of big,
right?
yep, this is home base. There are a lot of big dogs, big producers in my office. So I did a mentorship program with one of the teams that has, Anthony Gibson is one of the top buyers agents in all of Austin. And it's his team along with Ryan Vaughn, it's Austin Properties Group. And I did a mentorship with them and just listened to everything they told me and asked them a lot of questions. Probably, I still text Anthony all the time. He
That's
probably
awesome.
is sick of me at this point. But
But you learned, right? You learned.
yes. And when you're getting started, you can't be afraid to do that. You can't be afraid. A lot of times our ego gets in the way and we want to know everything, but take a step back, ask people questions that are doing a lot more business than you're doing.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. So, so you got out of the gates. Let me ask you kind of I don't know, a very frank question. Was there any time in the first, year or two where you said, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I just go back to teaching, right? This was a mistake." Just curious
Yep.
about kind of your mindset in the first couple of years.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question, because there's so many, it's like a roller coaster when you first start, because when I got into it, I actually, while I was packing up my classroom, a 4th grade teacher came to me and she said, "Hey, you're getting into real estate, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, my boyfriend's going to be selling his house. Can you help him?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I actually had a listing what I thought was ready to go right out of the gates. And it
Yeah.
turned out he spent the summer getting his house ready, which for me was great because I was just learning that whole time. But started in June and we listed his house, I think, in August. It closed in September. So that's pretty quick to get your first
It's really quick.
deal. So I was very fortunate that I kind of walked right into that. And then I had a couple other deals before the year ended, but then there was a slow period of a few months. And of course, whenever you hit those low periods, that's when you're like, what in the world am I doing? Like, why am I putting myself through this? You don't have any money coming in. You have months with literally $0, $0, $0.
Yeah.
And then things pick up again and you get a client and then you get two clients and then things are great. So what I learned is to, continue. You always got to fill that pipeline so that once all that business that you're working on closes, you've still got stuff in the works so that you don't hit those highs and lows. And I'll be completely honest, even 5 years in, I'll still see them sometimes. I'll still see months where, it's not as busy as I was the prior 3 or 4 months. So it really is a matter of sticking to it. Yeah, you're 100%. Anyone that gets started in real estate, if they didn't question what they were doing in the first 6 months, then I don't believe them.
Right. Well, Ian, what's interesting is that the first listing that you got was also a great lesson, right? Which is that this business comes from your sphere, right? The only
Yep.
reason that she brought this up to you is because she trusted you on some level. Because if I'm being honest, man, I'm not going to give a brand new agent my listing, right? They don't know what they're doing, So that shows how powerful the relationships are.
Totally. That school alone, I still have clients now that stemmed from that school that I stopped teaching at 5 years ago.
Amazing.
In my first, I think 2 years, I think I counted over $100,000 in commission, literally just from people related to that school.
Wow.
Yeah, I helped one of my students' grandmas buy and sell her house earlier this year. So it's still, take advantage of not take advantage, but capitalize on
Yeah,
the
exactly.
people around you, the people that, like you said, that trust you. Because yeah, if this teacher didn't trust me, she would never have brought it up in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, so you're out of the gates now, right? You're running. You had some early wins. You had some slow time. Business picked up again. When did you turn to Instagram, YouTube, all of that? When did you decide that this is an outlet, and how do you think about it? How do you use those channels to build your business, to build your brand?
Yeah, I was gonna. I would say Instagram was the first that was the first one.
Yeah.
So in the early 2016, and you have to remember, if you're watching this today, Instagram now is very, very different than Instagram in 2016 or 2015. When you look at my page, followers and all that kind of stuff, that was a lot easier to get from an organic standpoint in 2016 than it is today. When you talk about even the algorithm, the way that, you saw posts chronologically, like anyone that was following me saw my stuff when they logged in. Now, that's not the case at all. Unless someone's regularly engaging with your stuff, there's a good chance they'll never see it. But anyway, I knew that building some sort of online presence was important, especially with social media. So Instagram, I started posting. What I posted then is very different from what I post now. I would just post pictures of listings. I would find cool listings from the MLS. I would post a picture of it. I would write a little description. I would credit whatever the listing broker was. I would say listed courtesy of whatever, Realty Austin. And it got a lot of that. People just liked seeing cool houses.
People love looking at cool houses. Like that never seems to change, does it?
No. So that's all I posted. And then I realized, I don't remember when this exactly was, but you'll remember Snapchat had their own stories.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden Instagram put in stories.
Oh yeah.
So I said, all right, well now in my stories, I'm going to start putting more personal. That way people see that I'm not a robot just posting pictures of houses. And then I think it was summer of 2018. I made this. I posted a picture with my face on it. that was my coming out party to Instagram to show that I really am a person.
I'm a real person.
and from then my engagement changed, which I was fine with. But I was able to post more authentic content, which now I feel like is the name of the game. If you're going to start getting into Instagram and other social media channels.
No, that makes perfect sense. And so, when you think about like cadence of content, like how often are you posting to Instagram? How often are you posting to YouTube? And how do you even think of the ideas for your YouTube content in particular?
Well, okay, so YouTube, I knew that I needed to be posting to YouTube, but I was always afraid, like everyone is. No one wants to be on camera. They never want to post that first video. Finally, I bit the bullet. I said, I'm just going to do a video about like using Instagram as a realtor. And that was actually like one of my first videos was toward realtors. And I just found that easy, natural to do. And then I started kind of changing it up and saying, all right, if I'm looking to get business from this, from people that are looking to buy or sell in Austin, then I need to post content relevant to them. So I started posting like neighborhood videos, neighborhood spotlights. And if you're watching this, that is a great place to start. Pick a neighborhood and bring someone along on this journey of you touring the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be super formal. If you go to my YouTube page, if you just look up Ian Grossman Realtor, I should pop up there. There's nothing formal about it at all. As a matter of fact, I usually get more traction with the videos where I'm doing like selfie style, and I've got a selfie stick and I'm kind of talking directly to the camera as opposed to like a very staged video. So
interesting.
I started posting those, and then there's an agent in Savannah, Georgia. She did an interview for Family Reunion, which is one of Keller Williams' big annual events, and she talked about her video that she made. It's just titled "Moving to Savannah, Georgia: Top 10 Reasons to Move to Savannah." So I said, well, I'm going to make an Austin one. And most of my YouTube page isn't like this huge. I just hit 200 subscribers, which, it was a lot of work to get there in the first couple of years. And I wasn't expecting an overnight, like viral. It's very hyper local. Not everyone's going to be hitting the subscribe button, but I made that video where most of my videos get a few hundred views max. This one has almost 10,000 views because
it's one of those breakout videos for you, huh?
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, okay, aside from neighborhood videos, what can I make? What kind of videos can I make? Think of what people are searching.
Yeah.
Moving to Austin, Texas, I would say right now is a very popular search. So when they do it, my video is showing up.
It's actually, Ian, a really classic tactic, right, for YouTube, which is you go to YouTube, you go to the search bar, and you start typing in things, and you see what Google is suggesting, right? Because those are obviously popular searches, and if you're really smart about it, then you make videos that sort of align with that. So I think that's a really smart idea.
Yeah. So again, I am like a little more laid back. I don't know how many people you interview that wear hats, and like I'll show up in a showing wearing a hat, and usually I'm professional with it. I don't like,
well, look, it's a branded hat though, Ian. Let's be honest, okay?
It's a branded hat.
It's not Instagram IG. Different kind of IG.
Yeah. I just got some new ones coming in that'll look a little nicer, but
I like it.
Yeah, I try to make it more about like lifestyle. Someone moving to Austin, what else are they going to be interested in? So I have videos on restaurants that I like, top dog parks, again, things that people are searching. I have a friend that's a chiropractor, so I did a local business spotlight with him, and if someone's searching like best chiropractor in Austin, my video might show up and lead to his business. So helping local businesses is another huge aspect of it as well. It helps give them exposure.
It's really interesting, Ian, and I think one of the things that comes out with your channel is it does feel very local, right? And real estate is a hyper-local business, right? So coming here, given the name of your Instagram handle, right, and the nature of the videos, like this is an Austin place to be, which is really smart because, as you said, right now there's this kind of mass migration going on where people are leaving tier 1 urban cities to more suburban areas. And Austin is not an inexpensive city by any stretch of the imagination, but you can get a little bit more space, and it's slightly less expensive than the Bay Area or LA or New York, right? And it's a really compelling place to be. So I imagine that you're going to get even more traffic, right, as people are starting to look at other these areas. So I think it's pretty smart.
Yeah. I mean, just in the last couple of months, I've gotten a few phone calls literally just out of the blue. Hey, I live in California. I found you on YouTube and I'm interested in investing in Austin. Like that's literally free marketing that I'm doing. I do pay. So one thing I will recommend if you're going to set up a YouTube page, bite the bullet and pay to have your videos edited. You can outsource it.
Yes.
But we are real estate agents. We specialize in buying and selling homes. We're not video editors. So you don't need to be spending 2 hours a night after you record a video on editing it. Send that out and have someone else do it for you. That was
It's a
literally
really
one of
good
the
point.
best expenses I ever took on.
It's actually a really good point. We haven't talked about that a lot on this show. We've talked about YouTube. We've talked about creating content. We haven't really talked about that angle, which is there are any number of resources out there, and they're relatively inexpensive. Some of them quite inexpensive that you can use, and you can send your video, and they'll add, the title cards, and they'll do all of the edits for you. Maybe put in some lower thirds, and it's not the best use of your time unless for whatever reason you just love to do it.
Yeah. I'll give you a quick example. My editor, he lives in the Philippines. It's like he knows the English, the American English slang.
Yeah.
Like he'll message us and he talks, just like we do. And he'll
Yeah.
put little things, he'll get little inside jokes, like jokes we put in our videos. And the other day I sent a message. I said, hey, can you add an end screen where there's picture in picture on one part of it, and then the subscribe button and the next video pops up. Can you create a template? And by the next day does this work? And he sent it to me. That would have taken me forever to figure out how to do it and perfect it. Whereas he does it, takes no time, and it's probably going to be a lot better than whatever I came up with.
No, it's really smart, right? I mean, this is how we scale ourselves, and I think in real estate, all any of us have is our time, right? And so where we decide to spend our time is really one of the hardest decisions that you have to make. And so taking things that are lower value or not within your wheelhouse, or there's a better use of time because there's an opportunity cost to spending 3 hours editing a video, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's really good advice, is to find a service to send these videos out to, and they're going to make it look a lot better. A lot of these companies follow, like your thumbnails feel very YouTube-y, right? They're sort of, busy by design, though, literally by design, right? And they have some catchy phrase on it, and that's what plays well on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. So again, from a content perspective, don't think about what video is going to get me business. Think about what video are people going to search and want to see, want to watch more of. You want them to get lost in your YouTube channel because after they watch your video on X neighborhood on Travis Heights, then they see a restaurant that's in Travis Heights that you just did a video on, and then they get sucked into the ecosystem,
Now, it makes perfect sense. And this also speaks to content strategy, right? So, this show that you're on right now, the Daily List Report, as we like to call it, it is a bit of a labor of love. This is a deep dive, right? Most of these episodes are 30 minutes or more, and that long form content isn't really necessarily the best for YouTube, but for those who watch it, they watch a lot of a high percentage of the show, and we want to get the deep learning out there. But, if I look at your videos, I'm looking at 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, right? Like that shorter form content does play really well on YouTube because you're right. You can burn through a video and then bounce on to the next one that you referred to, right? And so on and so forth. So I think that's a good strategy for YouTube.
And yeah, you'll notice maybe when I first started YouTube videos, they were a little shorter. Now I try to hit at least the 8 minute plus mark.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a very common misconception with YouTube. So whereas on Instagram, you can put like a 1 minute clip up and people want to watch it and then keep scrolling. On YouTube actually favors watch time. So
They do.
if you have a 1 minute video on YouTube, a bunch of 1 minute videos that people watch a few of, you're actually better off with them watching half or 2/3 of a 8 to 10 minute video.
Yeah.
So focus on that. don't try to rush it and make it end in 2 to 3 minutes. Keep them on it longer, because YouTube will favor, and you'll start to show up in their search algorithm a little bit more.
It's 100% true. I mean, that's exactly what they want. Is they want quality content, they want engagement, and from our perspective, I've always favored engagement over views, right? So a lot of people chase, I think, the vanity metrics, and what I'm most interested in is, are we getting a deep level of engagement with this content? Are people watching for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes, right? That's kind of what we're after. So it just depends on your strategy. But what I like about what you've done here, Ian, is you've created content, clearly has a purpose. It clearly has a locality to it, right? It's very specific. And I think your feedback and your advice to people to do neighborhood videos is such a great one. In my experience, and I've looked at this pretty closely, there's a dearth of neighborhood videos out there. There's just not a lot of great content where people are like, hey, here's this subdivision within this particular neighborhood, and here are some of the pros and cons of it. I think there's a massive opportunity there.
Yeah, my first big piece of business from YouTube was on a video that I did. It was actually in the neighborhood I live in. That was my first neighborhood spotlight. I was like, let me start where I live, because I know the neighborhood. So did a video. A couple months later, got a random email. Someone said they found me on YouTube. They looked me up on Google, and now they live right around. It's a friend of mine. They live around the corner from me. They bought a house a month later. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So it definitely works. But if you're planning on posting a video and then sitting and waiting and wondering why you haven't gotten any business from it, doesn't work like that. You got to keep posting. Have a like for me, I'm at minimum week posting videos, recording and posting videos weekly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do a couple a week if I have that kind of stored. So keep putting out content.
Good. That regularity is really important. And this is, I did a show which we'll link to a few weeks ago. We talked about, if you think you want to go this path. You got to commit to it and pick something. Say, I'm going to make a video a week for a year, whatever it might be, right? But stick to it, and then you can reevaluate it, right? Make sure that you're improving and you're looking at the data and all of that stuff. But it's absolutely viable. But you said something else which I think is really important. I'll remind everybody, even though everybody should know this, is that people are going to Google you before they contact you. It's just what you're going to do, right? And when you're Googled and you see your agent page and your Instagram account and your YouTube channel and so on and so forth, all of these things, like, it really helps, right? Because what they want is some validation that I'm talking to the right person. And these things show that you are an active, busy agent who's putting content out in the world. And do they know the difference between a video with 500 views or 5,000 views? Probably not. Practically speaking, it probably doesn't matter. It's like, okay, this person is out there because they heard about you in some way. Yeah. So it's really important.
What that client is now, my friend said to me, I said, okay, you watched my video, but what made you call me? And he said, while we were watching, you had us entertained, like you seemed a little goofy, which we liked. And he said, you didn't seem salesy. It wasn't like you were trying to sell me on the neighborhood. You were just like a relatable guy giving information. And that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You don't have to cheese it up. And I mean, by cheese it up, you don't have to be salesy with it. Just tell people what you like and what you don't like. They want honesty. Honesty as well is huge,
It's really true, Ian. And I think that in particular for newer agents who haven't yet fully established their careers, that because of the up and down that we talked about, right? You're 2 months into no paycheck and then you get a lead. Like, your own pressure, like internal pressure, where you're like, I have to close this. I think sometimes leads people to lead with salesmanship as opposed to leading with value. It's actually a really big gut check to say, I have to be prepared to lose this deal, right? To be authentic, to be open, to be transparent, right? And I think that's a trap that some agents fall into, is that they need that deal. They need the money, and it forces them to act in a way that they might not otherwise do. And that's a shame, frankly.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I get it. It's desperation mode when you're first starting, but always kind of circle back to your core values, like how you want to be treated and how you want to be looked at as you continue down the line, because those people are likely if they like you, if they do business with you, they're going to be a referral source for you.
That's
You want
exactly
them to
right.
be. But
That's exactly
to
right.
a point you made before, again, if you're watching this and you don't already have a Google My Business page, a Google Business page, go do that today, right when you're done watching this. Create that. You can even ask some friends for kind of character reviews to get, if you're afraid of having 0 reviews, contact any past clients you've worked with, and then ask your friends to write a review just that tells about you as a person. They don't even have, it's not like they have to lie and say,
That's
yes,
right.
I use this person, but they could say that you're dedicated, they've seen you work with clients and you referred a friend to them that they helped out. That's okay too.
I love that idea. That those character references and reviews help. I think that's actually a really smart idea. Nobody's ever quite said that to me before, but I think that's a great idea, Ian. I like it.
Yeah. Cool.
Ian, this was a great conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we wrap up today?
I mean, I understand when you're getting started that it's so overwhelming of like, where do I start? There's so many different things. I would say, I'm a big Gary Vee fan, and everything he's preached over the last couple of years does come true. I don't know if he's always going to be able to predict the future, but he's done a pretty good job so far. So his big thing is content.
Yes.
If you're getting started, a great way to start is by documenting your journey. Like it's okay for people to know that you're getting started, and they'll almost have more buy-in if they're along for the journey and they get to watch you get that first client, the first deal. It brings them along and it's very authentic. So
that's a good point.
If you're wondering like, where do I start? Think of that. Bring people along your journey. Allow people, think of ways that will add value to people that are buying and selling real estate in your city, and pick one. It doesn't have to be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be all of them at first, but pick one and kind of dive in and just go full steam ahead at it.
I love it, Ian. That's tremendous advice. Ian, thanks so much for doing this today. I appreciate your time and you sharing your journey, because this is really applicable to and relevant to everybody listening. So I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I hope we get a chance to talk to you again soon.
All righty.
Thanks so much. Bye, Ian.
See you guys. Bye.
Well, there you have it. Pretty cool, right? So I have up on the screen again here Ian's YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. I think there's a lot of great things to learn from how he's handling this. And he talked about how he's basically outsourcing the editing part of it, which is a really smart idea, right? This is not a good use of your time unless this happens to be your hobby and your passion. And then look at what he's doing on Instagram. So we'll link to this as well, right? But, he's very clearly Austin, Texas focused, and it's a combination of food, which Austin is certainly known for, and housing, and all sorts of really cool stuff, and a blend of sort of who he is as a person, and some advice and some of his videos. So I think that's pretty awesome. That's it for today, actually. Let us know in the comments what you thought of today's episode. If you have any feedback for us, we always love to hear that. And until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy. We'll see you soon.